Hi, Susan. I'm so happy to be chatting with you today. The Mystery Thriller Week is coming up in February, and you are one of the authors who is participating. So it's a pleasure to actually be chatting with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited to be talking to you. I don't think I've been interviewed by anyone in South Africa, so that's really, really exciting. And I'm really actually so thrilled to be part of the inaugural Mystery Thriller Week. I think those ladies organising it are amazing. They're just doing so much stuff.
They are doing so much stuff, and that was one of my questions for you. How did you actually become involved in the Mystery Thriller Week?
I think that was Diane, my moderator at my private Facebook group, the Mayhem Gang, if anyone wants to come join. I think she mentioned it, and then one other person mentioned it. So she gives me links, and I just zipped over and went, hello, I'm interested. And so I think I was there right from, the very beginning almost. So I think it's fantastic that these readers are actually, in their spare time setting up something that looks to me like it's going to grow into something really huge over the years if they keep at it. I think it's just a fantastic opportunity.
It is. And I, as a reader and a blogger, have actually really enjoyed being able to help promote authors who are not necessarily as well known as they need to be. Mm-hmm. So from both sides, it's working well.
Yeah.
Okay.
As they need to be. I like that you said that. As they need to be.
Yes, indeed.
Right.
A lot of work.
I think that's fantastic.
A lot of work and time goes into writing a story, so that needs to be recognised. It really does.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, so for the Mystery Thriller Week, I had the privilege of listening to Deadly Messengers, which is a story which you wrote.
Thank you. Yes.
And I have some questions for you about that book.
Oh, I love questions. It means you were paying attention.
I would also like to speak about other works that you've done, but we'll do that a little bit later.
Okay.
So, in the story, because I really don't want to give too much away, because people must read it because it's great.
I know, it's hard, isn't it, not to give too much away.
That's it, yes. In the story, there's a bit of a tie-in with mind control, and I'm quite fascinated by that. How did this plot actually start for you? How did it all sort of begin and develop?
Well, it goes back to the first book that I ever wrote, Back Again, and there's a antagonist, but she is almost a protagonist, called Kylie, and she's this 20-year-old girl who's got no respect for anyone, and she's kind of the bad person in the story. And I just loved writing her. She's an anti-hero in a way, and I really loved how dark she was and her attitude. So I said to my husband, I want to write another book where I can have a whole bunch of bad people and I can, really have a party. So I don't want just one bad guy. I want a whole bunch of bad guys, and I write different chapters from their viewpoint and get in the mind of people that are killers. Besides this, let me just say I'm a very nice person. I am not violent, and in fact, when I'm at the movies and there's violence on the screen, I'm like this. I'm like, no, I can't stand it. I can't watch it. But for some reason I can write it. So anyway, I thought, well, what I could do is I could have all these different people controlled and somehow committing these crimes, but someone's controlling them. So when I started, that's all I had. And so I just started with the first scene of the guy at the cafe with the axe. That's not giving too much away. Killing people and killing the kitchen staff and, having a rampage. And then it just sort of went from there. And, of course, I write very organically, so I don't plot. I'm what they call a pantser, which means I write by the seat of my pants. Stephen King is a pantser.
Oh, okay.
He said he tried to write a book once. I can't remember which one, Lisa's Story or something like that. and he said it was the worst book he ever wrote because he plotted it all out and it wasn't organic. And I write like that, so I had an idea. I wanted these killers and they wanted to be controlled. In fact, I thought it was some kind of alien control, and which I'm giving this away, it's not. But there's remnants of when I thought it was alien control with sort of green glows around things. And I thought, yeah, they can stay in there and just really mess with people's minds. and so it just went from there. Of course, I know, if you have a crime, I needed a protagonist to solve the crimes. So that's how I ended up with the characters that I had, you know, O'Grady and... God, what's the name of my lead character? I've forgotten her name.
Oh, God, so have I.
Is it Colin? I know. What kind of author forgets the name of
What kind of a reviewer? I'll tell you now.
I know. That's mad. Are you looking it up? Can you just tell me the name of my character? I'm on to like many characters since, and so I can't remember. I can remember Lance O'Grady, the detective.
Yes, I also remember.
And Trip.
What is her name now?
What's her name?
Killen.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. She'll never forgive me.
Kendall Jennings.
Kendall. I had Kylie in my head because Kylie's the name of the character in Back Again. Kendall. Yes. So I needed Kendall to get involved, and she was the character I came up with, and she needed to be able to get into lots of places that a normal person couldn't. And so that's why she's there. And then, of course, you've got a crime, so maybe we need a detective. And then that was it. And then I thought, well, let me just get about 4 or 5 terrible, horrible mass killing scenes in there, and that's it. That's how it started. That's how they all start. A little idea, and before I know it, there's a book written. And that one took, I think I timed that one about, 27 days to write.
Okay.
The first draft.
Wow. And was there lots of editing after that?
A little editing. I mean, the first draft's really simple. Not simple, but quick, because I just put it down. I don't edit. I don't go back and check other sentences nice. I just basically want the whole plot down and know what's going to happen. And then I'll go back and do the second draft, and that's where I'll fix things up and think, oh, this character's actually in the wrong place, or I don't quite like, what they're saying. And then I'll do a little bit of fixing up sentences, but I'm mainly just looking at what's happening in the story. Is it all starting to make sense? Do I need some extra characters to explain things?
Yeah.
What have I missed? Have I doubled up? I'll start thinking, have I got too many? Have I repeated myself? Because you can do that very easily because you've got an idea and you want to get the idea across, but then you forget that you've already said that, and then later on you'll think, did I say that? I think I've already said that. So you have to go back and delete that. Then the third draft is, then I do look at each sentence and think, does that sound okay? Is it confusing? Then after the third draft, I send it to my editor, and she'll come back and say, in the case of Deadly, she really loved it, but I always have about 4,000 edits in a manuscript, which is just little, spelling mistakes, or I've made a continuity mistake. I've put a character in the wrong place, in a room even sometimes, and they're meant to tell you that. Sometimes they miss, or you say you've closed a door and you've actually not opened the door or something, like that. And then she fixes spelling mistakes. I don't have many of those. I do have punctuation errors, obviously, and time errors sometimes. And then in the case of this one, she got a bit annoyed about something I made Kendall do, and she said, that's just made me so angry, because she'd already really liked the character and she thought I made the character sound horrible. I can't remember what it was. Something that she did when she rang O'Grady to initially make contact with him, and whatever lie she told, she said, that's made me so mad that you would have her like that. She wouldn't do that. And I thought, wow, that's good. She's really, taken my character under her wing and defend. So I changed it. I never argue. It's beyond. I would not change maybe 0.001% of suggestions made to me because usually they're correct. Oh, besides this, my husband reads the second draft to tell me if he thinks it's a good book. And it's terrifying because I keep thinking, oh, he doesn't say anything, and I think, oh, he doesn't like it. It's stupid. And I go, it's stupid, isn't it? And he goes, no, it's good. And then, he'll point out things that I keep saying to him, you don't need to tell me that. He'll say, oh, I think it's a bit long here, or, it slows down here. And I go, I know that. I know I have to go through and fix that.
But what about the story?
Yeah. Why keep reading? Do you think that it makes sense? Do you think the characters are good? Do you think at the end it's a good resolution? Could you guess who the killer was? Or in the case of Deadly, it isn't about guessing the killer. You know who the killer is. And a lot of people criticise me. If you read the negative reviews, which I never do, I try not to take them to heart. But the negative reviews say, "Oh, I guessed who the killer was halfway through. It's not a very good thriller." But it wasn't about the killer. I gave the killer on purpose. It was about how did he do it. It was a how do it, not a who done it.
Yeah. I must say I only picked up on who the murderer actually was about halfway through.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's about it. That's about when you get told.
That's it. And then I understood. But then it was why? Why? And how? So...
Yeah, exactly.
It worked out how you wanted it to, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a long answer as to the writing process and how I came up with that idea.
Okay, let's see what else I've got. For me, this book had a couple of strong messages. The first was this concern over mind control, and we've delved a little bit into that. But the second is our blind faith in the medical profession. And it really is. People who have studied and who are taking care of our health, we trust them. It's just the way it is. But do they have all the information they need? And are the drug manufacturers giving the health professionals all the information they need to give to us, the user, the end user? So I was wondering how that thought kind of factored in to this plot.
Well, I hate to disappoint everyone that I'm some deep and meaningful person, but when I set out to write it, I was not writing a story that said anything about that. And again, I quote Stephen King, but he says in the first draft, and I feel exactly the same way, the book isn't about anything. It's just about a story. And then it's a really strange thing that once you go back through the second draft, and also if you're talking about it, like sometimes I go for walks with my husband and I talk about bits that are happening in a plot or what I'm thinking about I'm going to write in the future or during an edit. And as I'm talking to him, I'm starting to really crystallise what the book is about. And Stephen King said that. He said it takes a while to write a book. And he said, you want to make sure that book is about something. You're just not writing a story. And I didn't set out to write about how we blindly trust people, because that's not something I think in my head. I'm not on any bandwagon, actually, other than to be kind to people and grateful. That's my only thing. And so it wasn't anything about that. But by the time I started going through the second draft, I realised, yes, this is sort of sending a message. And I'm not sending a message about not trusting doctors or any people. But, of course, you can't help read that or occasionally think, I'd better question things. I guess it's all these ideas are in my head. I've had experiences not with the medical profession but with teachers. My eldest child is dyslexic.
Right.
But he actually he wasn't diagnosed until he entered high school and they tested him in entry level. And yeah, I know. And I don't know whether this is an indictment on our system or that school. Like, the school wasn't great. But he had a reading level of grade 3 and he was entering grade 7.
Wow.
So he was 12, but it was terrible. But all the way along, I kept saying to the teachers, I'd have the yearly meeting when the year started, saying, oh, look, he's not great with reading. There is an issue, just to sort of get on the same page with them. And this is what I'm doing at home with him. I'm reading extra, blah, blah. And then I would also always say to them, do you think it's dyslexia? And they would say, oh, does he flip his P's and Q's around? Which he didn't. I said, no. And they said, no, he's just learning at his own pace. Well, I since learned that flipping your P's and Q's is one of about 30 indicators.
Right.
And he had every indicator except that one. So I know. To me, someone talks to me about that child struggling with reading and tells me a few of the key indicators, like he couldn't tell the time, and he's getting better, but he's 16. But it's just a dyslexia thing. He can't do math. He was counting on his fingers.
Right.
All of the signs. And if someone told me that, I would think, I make that suggestion, go and get them checked and tested. But in the case of this, I listened to teachers blindly because I thought they're trained. I don't know anything about teaching.
Exactly.
Or children. But all I had to do was Google it myself. If I Googled, it's all there. So I guess that's all in my head. Like, a writer writes based on his own experience and a reader interprets based on their own experience. It's really a melding of a common ground. That's why some people will read that book and not like it. I get negative reviews on all my books. So does Stephen King, so does everybody. It's whether you can identify with what's happening and you like the style, but sometimes it feels special to you because what I've said, we have that in common.
Yeah.
And so that is probably in my head as I was writing it, and it just comes out because I kind of free write, and whatever's there, suddenly the character is saying it. And not that all the views of my character are my views, but in that moment, I can always see their point of view, whether they've just killed somebody.
Yeah.
And understand why they did that. I won't agree with them, but I totally understand that was the reason for their choices. So yes, it is about all those things that you say, but I never ever set out to say those things. And the one thing I did not want to say, which horrified me when I got my first review, and the guy said, I can't review your book, I really liked it, but I take antidepressants, and you villainise antidepressants. And that's why I changed the imagination bot, and I said, in no way am I saying that people should not take any sort of drug to help them. And this is just a story.
Yes.
And it's taken to the extreme. So, I think if you need to take any kinds of drugs to help you, first find out everything you can. That's just a good suggestion.
That is.
But secondly, if you have to, you have to. That's life. We all have different illnesses and we have to try and manage them.
That's right.
So a mental illness is the same thing, So it's nothing saying anything against that at all. So
what I actually took from that was just be aware, actually. Just be aware.
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
That's all.
Exactly.
And it's the same with all parts of life, isn't it? I mean, you actually just need to educate yourself and be aware of what you're getting involved with.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and get second opinions as well,
That's
but the problem is we don't trust ourselves enough, We have to trust our instincts and say, like my son, I knew there was something wrong, and yet I trusted other people, and I'm a mum. I should trust my own instinct, and now I've learned that, and it's a bit of a shame because I probably won't have that situation with him again or my kids because I've learned to question things.
That's
you know,
it, yeah.
Is that right? It doesn't make sense to me, you know, but we don't question because we don't know how little sometimes other people know and the quality of what we're being served with. You know, like another teacher might have worked it out about him. I just didn't get those teachers. It's just that, unfortunately, you don't know if those teachers are passionate. You don't know if that doctor is passionate. You don't know their experience. You don't know if they've had a bad day.
Yeah.
They could just be having a bad day, want to get you out of the office and say, take these drugs, and don't even realise, hang on a minute, that's probably not great for them. So, yeah, that's...
Okay, well, let's move on.
Yeah, I know, because we're going to be here forever and we really shouldn't talk too long.
Okay, let's see what else I've got here. Oh, should we go on to the narration? Let's move on to the narration because that's actually what I did.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. First of all, how did you choose Anne Johnstone Brown?
Oh, well... That was fateful. All my narrators, well, I've only got one other, but the guy who's just done Troubles Keeper, same, very faithful. But look, by the time I was looking for a narrator, Deadly Messengers was selling really well. It sold thousands and thousands of copies and sort of had taken off and was ranking really high in the Amazon store. And so I could afford to get a good narrator and pay for it myself, because a lot of authors, what they do is a deal with the narrator, so they go 50-50 with them.
Right.
So the narrator doesn't charge for the recording, so they take all the risk, and they get 50% of the royalties that come in.
Right.
But I've got a thing, I'm a control freak when it comes to my intellectual property, and I don't... give it away. So I wasn't going to save, you know, a few $1,000s. I wasn't going to sign away 50% of my royalties.
Yes.
So basically, Amazon has a company called ACX, and that's how you do the recordings. Well, you don't have to, but they're the main ones. They've cornered the market on everything. They're the main ones that do Audible. So you go there and you put up your manuscript, and then people can apply to narrate, or you can have a listen through what's up there. There's samples up there, and there's thousands of narrators, and then you can choose by how much they charge per hour, and male, female style. Anyway, so I listened to a few, and I was just really lucky. I heard Anne's, and I thought, oh, that's the voice I hear in my head. That is absolutely Kendall's voice. So I wrote to her straight away. You can message. And I said, oh, look, you know, would you be interested? This is my book. And I'd had a few people apply, and I didn't like them. So then I got around to reading her bio. Well, she'd won all these awards, and she was an actress, and she's really successful. And I thought, oh, she'll say no for sure. Who am I? I'm nobody. She won't want to, and she's probably got a million jobs on the go because she won ACX Voice of the Year, Audible Voice of the Year in 2013, which is huge.
It is huge.
Yeah, and she's so talented. Yeah, and she's just so talented. So anyway, I was so shocked. She wrote back and she said, oh, I'm really excited to hear from you. And she said, just happens I was having a break, and I can definitely fit you in, and I would love to do the book. It sounds intriguing. So
there you go. See, it was meant to be.
I know, it was meant to be. And then as she read the book, she said to me, or as she was doing it, she wrote to me and said, look, this has become very personal. Something in my family, not her, but something in my family this resonates with. And she said it's just been a great read. And then obviously there's a lot of back and forth things, so we've become friends. And then afterwards I thought, well, I'll do Back Again, my first novel. So of course I went back to Anne, and I waited because she writes plays, so she was doing a play, and so I had to wait about 4 or 5 months, but I didn't care. yeah, so that's how I got her. So she's my female narrator, and I can't see I'm going to change. I've already asked her about the next book that requires a female narrator, which is Behind the Fire, just a novella, but there's a female part and a male part, so I'm going to alternate the parts between the male and female narrator.
Yeah.
So,
I actually enjoy listening to stories that have a female and a male. It just adds a different element to to the story. It really does.
Absolutely. And look, it's pretty tough. I had to get her to voice O'Grady. We do samples, and she did a sample. That was the one that was back and forth, and I kept saying, try this, try that. And it's really hard. I don't speak to her, so it's just email. And I have to say, higher voice, lower voice, slower, gravelly. And so because it's a male voice, it took her a while to work it out. But, look, I think she did a really good job because, I've listened to some audibles and it's terrible. You've really got to get the right narrator. And as I said to my male narrator, Steve Marvel, I listened to so many narrators till I found him. And the problem with a couple that I trialled, they just didn't know how to pace. You can't tell somebody how to place an inflection, where to raise your voice, where to slow down or emphasise a word. It has to be natural, it has to be acting. And I found that very few narrators that I listen to, and these are ones that are in the top price, like I pay quite a lot for my narrators, definitely in the top bracket, because that's what you'll get. If you pay below what I pay, you won't get a good narrator. And I, over 100,000 words, I can't be telling a narrator, you need to emphasise this word. When I get the audible back to listen to edit, so I'll listen in, I think that was one of your questions.
Yes.
Yes. So the process is they go away. Different, like Anne said, I will go away and do the whole book. When I send it back to you, it will be the best that I can do. And then you can go through it and tell me any corrections. Whereas Steve works a bit more like most people. He'll send me each chapter as it's done. We have a Dropbox link and I'll see him putting them in and I'll start listening to them. Then I'll make notes because occasionally they'll say the wrong word or there might be just one little way they say something, very rare, and I might say, pause on that word. I really want it emphasised. But mostly I just let them go because they know what they're doing. Yeah. I'm not a narrator. So I was checking quite regularly over the Christmas period. And then, of course, the worst thing about it is that I have to listen to my work back. And oh, my goodness, it's not good because I can't change it. And I can, but it's really involved because, first of all, it's okay to change the audible, although if I do too many changes, I'll get charged. And I don't want to bother them. I don't want to say, there's 50 changes in there, but it's my fault, sorry, because they're not going to want to work with me again. So some of them I ignore, but I change the e-book, and then eventually I'll change the paper book because there's different processes involved, right. Different companies that I deal with, different Amazon companies. So in the case of Deadly Messengers, I really suffered listening to that because I honestly thought it sounded like a horrible book. I was so critical. I thought I couldn't go on in some bits. And I'm thinking, the phrasing that I used in that sentence was terrible, or that word, or I can hear double words. They're called echoes. So, you'll use one word in the previous sentence or the same sentence and repeat it,
yes,
or a similar sounding word, and I don't like that. I really try and change the words, so that it's not boring.
Yeah.
You notice it. So, but of course, when it's read out loud to you, and I do read my stuff out loud, but I can't hear it, but I'm listening to someone in the car as I'm driving, I hear it and I think, oh no, how could I have done that? I don't understand.
So it definitely brings a different element in to your experience of the novel then. Not necessarily a good one.
Well, but I must say, I think I'm getting better at writing, obviously. The more you write, the better you get.
Yeah.
So Troubles Keeper didn't take as many edits. And secondly, I actually enjoyed the Audible. There was a few sentences I changed around. But other than that, I actually was listening to it and thought, oh, it's quite a good story. Can't believe I wrote it. And I know. And I really love Steve Marvel's narration of it. He did such a good job. He really brings it to life. Like Anne, he's an actor, and he won a couple of awards and was finalist in a few things. So, again, really talented.
Yes.
So it's definitely... I'm getting better at the experience. Like, I was dreading Troubles Keeper, thinking, oh, so many mistakes and I'm going to not enjoy this. But I really enjoyed it. And I think when people hear it, they'll love Steve's voice. He's going to do Behind the Fire. And it'd be rare now that I found these two, because he loves my stuff as well and really enjoyed the process. And we, became friends and chatted a bit via email. It'll be rare that I will use other narrators now, but it could be that I will have a book that they just haven't got the right voice for, and then I'll find another narrator and add them to, I guess, my team. I think of them as part of my team.
Right.
But for the next books, as far as I can see, it'll be Anne and Steve. Yeah.
Okay, well, I haven't listened to Steve yet, but Anne was great, so yay!
Thanks.
Right, I think let's just check what else I've got here on my list, because I think we've done all the ones I emailed you.
Okay.
Authors in South Africa have a very hard time actually getting their works published. Now, I've been hearing horror stories recently from authors who have tried to publish through Amazon or have their books available through Amazon.
Okay.
And the reason is that Amazon takes, this is what I hear, I'm not 100% certain of my facts here, but Amazon takes about 80% of the sale price, which leaves 20% for the author. And that for me is a bit of a crime. Something to do with taxes, I believe. But as I said, I haven't really investigated it, so can't verify that right now. But I wanted to ask about publishing, and what was your greatest challenge around getting your stuff published?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm not sure if that's true, what you just said about it could be. So the way Amazon works, and I'm really grateful to Amazon, they can be a little difficult to deal with sometimes, but their customer service is as good, let me think, yes, mostly as good as it is if you're a person buying off them.
Right.
So if I've got queries, they reply really quickly, they try and fix it up, they're apologetic if something's not right. Now, the way it works is that if you price your book at 99 cents up to $2.99 US on the Amazon site, and you can choose the different countries. I think where South African authors may come unstuck is they don't have a South African Amazon.
Yes. And
that could be an issue. So if they publish, though, on the Amazon USA, because I'm an Australian, so I'm in the same, well, we have an Australian Amazon, but people coming from South Africa to purchase will go via the UK or the USA.
Yes.
And as far as I know, it's the same deal. So we get 70% of the royalty. If it is over $2.99, up to $2.99, you only get 99 cents. You only get 30%, I should say. So possibly they're pricing below $2.99, which I don't do, because a few reasons. I have done that, and occasionally I'll do promotions, but there's a lot of not very good books, I hate to say it, up there, and they're all 99 cents or free or $1.99, and I'm just trying to Yeah, and I spend a lot of money on my books. I have editors and I spend a lot of time making sure they're at the best quality they can be. So I don't want my books identified as one of those books, because I can see people would buy a few 99-cent books, $2.99 books to see what they're like. And the chances that they will get a bad book, a bad experience, are pretty high, because there's 5 million books on Amazon and more than 1 million are self-published. So, and I know that not everybody has the attention to detail and quality that some of the top indie authors do, and, you know, that I have. So therefore, I fear that people will buy a couple of these cheap books, have a bad experience, and say, I'm never ever buying a $1.99 book again, a 99-cent book again. So I price my books higher. I price them, they're not as dear as Stephen King or Jodi Picoult or any of these publisher authors, but they're a little bit higher than the average indie, because I think that makes a statement about my book. So getting back to the question, Amazon pays 70%. By the time they also charge us, there's a slight download fee, which I've got no idea why they charge that. It works out to about 67%. And that's a really good amount of money out of, say, in the case of my book, $7 book. As opposed to go through a publisher and you will get a tiny advance if you're a first author. And I know this because having been reviewing books for a long time, I've got friends who are in the publishing industry, so I know. And like in Australia, one of my best friends is with HarperCollins.
Right.
And they pay $3,000 to $5,000 for a first-time author if they're lucky. And then you have to repay that royalty from your book sales, which you will get usually, depending on the contract, 10 to 15% of cover price. And then if you're in like the big department stores, if they get you there, it's less. You take a cut. So you'd be lucky to get $1.50 to $2.50 a book.
Good
from
heavens.
a publisher.
That's horrendous.
Yeah. So
how is this helping authors? You know, it's just not. That's
it's
horrendous.
Terrible. I know. And here's the catch. This is why I'm an indie author, and I choose to be one. I've never submitted to a publisher. I gave HarperCollins bugged me. A couple of publishers bugged me to look at my books, so I sent it to them, and it probably ended up in a slush pile. I don't know, but I don't really care. I just sent them as a bit of a, okay, if you're interested. And the only thing I'd put in a contract, funnily enough, I told my friend in Australia at HarperCollins, was I want that like gold or silver embossing on my cover. I don't really care about anything else, because I know in Australia they're not going to sell many of my books. Probably in Australia, if they released it into a bookstore, I would sell about the same over the whole run of the book. And keep in mind, they have hundreds of books released a month. So once they do all the publicity on your book, they have to move to the next book.
Right.
And the next lot of books, whereas they're my books, so I keep promoting them. It doesn't matter how old they are. So what they would pay me, the amount of books I would sell would be the equivalent of what I would sell in less than a week over here. And for, say, HarperCollins Australia or whoever, that would be what they would sell the whole year of my book.
Oh.
So, and with the equivalent amount of money that I would get paid, bestsellers in Australia get paid about, excluding huge ones like Leanne Moriarty, but in Australia, bestsellers would get paid. I've got a friend that's considered a bestseller, maybe $12,000 for their book. I know. And they really... I know. It's mental. That's why there's so many indie authors, and that's why published authors are now becoming hybrid authors, and they're publishing themselves. And you control everything. You know, if all these mistakes I found in my book, possibly they wouldn't be there, but they could still be there from a publisher.
Yes.
I couldn't just edit them and upload the file. I would have to get in touch with the publisher. Maybe they would get back to me, and it might never get changed. And you don't even know how much you earn. They pay every 6 months, whereas Amazon pays every month. I get paid whatever I earn this month, I will get paid in 2 months. And I know they're going to pay me on the same day every month, 29th.
Okay.
So getting, again, back to your question, I don't know where that information comes from, but I don't think that's correct. I think the problem is they're underpricing, and they're not as experienced with what they're doing. The toughest thing, if you're an indie author and any author, is finding your market and finding people who will read your book. You know, doing what you guys are doing. Thriller Week is fantastic, but getting it out to the masses is really difficult. And now, like, I do quite a bit of marketing and cross-promotion, which takes up more of my time than I would like, but it's necessary now because the independent publishing wave is in the gold rush stages, or it's just getting over the gold rush stages where everyone thinks they can make a lot of money. And so there's so many books, so many people think they're going to make $1 million, and the problem that you now have is you're competing against very experienced indie authors who have made $1 million and have money to market with.
Right.
And you know, and then there's me, like, I'm hoping I'm on the coming up. I market, and I kind of know my way around stuff. I've got contacts now. I've got, like, a little group of advanced readers. A few, I don't like to call them fans. I like to call them friends, readers who are friends of mine.
That's me.
Not my friends, Amazon. Yeah, like you. Yeah, so I've got all that now. And so what happens is if you put your book up on Amazon, you're competing against me because my book's up there and out there, and it's trying to rank, and I'm marketing it to keep the ranks up and get Amazon to recommend me to other readers. So you have to compete against that. And unless you've got deep pockets, or somehow you are the luckiest person, because it can happen, occasionally lightning strikes and an unknown author does well, but if you check, they've probably got a marketing background or something weird happened to get them there. It's usually, it's not luck. Everyone says that. Stephen King said it years ago. I took it to heart. He said, you know, if you write every day, you will build very big writing muscles. He said, and then there's that thing called luck. And he said, did that as well. But he said, there is nothing to say that you can't write yourself into that place where you have big muscles and wait for luck to come find you. And I feel like that is probably what's happening to me, that I write every day. Well, I did until the last month or so. You know, I've gone out there and met people and rarely said no to interviews. I've asked people to review my book when nobody was interested. I've tried to connect with people and just be myself. I am friendly and, you know, nice, and I try and do that and be humble and all that other stuff, but I keep writing and I keep being hopeful, because, you know, you can have your days where you think, what the heck am I doing? You know, I'm up till 11 o'clock at night, I'm up to midnight sending out a newsletter, and I just want to go to bed, and I'm tired and I haven't seen my family. You know, this is so unfair, and I'm not selling any books. And then suddenly it'll all start happening, and you'll suddenly, all the money you've put in, the editing that's cost a lot, your books are selling and you're getting the money back and you're making some money. And so I always say to people who, I've got friends who have written a lot of books and are making a little bit of money but not a lot of money, and they get very disheartened. And I say to them, but this business turns on a day. You know, it can turn on an hour. You can have no sales, and then suddenly, like what is happening with Troubles Keeper, a week ago, on a Sunday, so almost coming tonight, 8 nights ago, I sell a few books. Like, I sell enough that, you know, I can earn a reasonable living out of it. But I have a few books that jump up into bestseller rank and stuff like that. But a week ago, about 10 o'clock at night, I'd finished watching a movie, and I looked at my KDP, that's Kindle Direct Publishing panel, dashboard, and I noticed that I'd sold quite a lot of books, more than I would normally sell by that time of the night, which is the US day.
Right.
it's about 10 o'clock at night. Here is about 10 a.m. New York time. And I thought, oh, what's going on here? My advertising must be working. And then by the time I went to sleep, I couldn't go to sleep because I kept checking. I kept like refreshing and going, oh, it's sold more. What's going on? And it was so funny. By about 3 o'clock in the morning, I think I'd hit like number 300 in the Kindle store, which is huge when you're not promoting a book. I even got up and went downstairs to my computer to check if my marketing had gone mental, and I was suddenly going to get a big bill because I do this cost per click marketing, and if it takes off, I would suddenly have a really expensive $1,000 bill, and I thought, oh, something's happened. But no, it was normal. So I actually don't know what happened, but at about 3 o'clock, I couldn't take it anymore. I sold so many books that I said to my husband, I thought I could hear he was awake. And I said to him, are you awake? And he goes, I'm not awake. I said, yes, you're awake. And he goes, okay, what is it? And I said, the book's up to 300 and I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. It's gone mental. So he then, poor thing, didn't go back to sleep, but I did.
Well, at least he'd had an hour. You hadn't had any.
I know, poor thing. Well, then I woke up because the kids are on holidays, so I could wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning. So then I woke up and he was, I think he was gone to work. And I checked and I thought, oh my gosh, it's now 130. How can it be 130 in the Kindle store? And I rushed down, checked the marketing. No, marketing all normal. No idea. I thought, okay, somebody's mentioned it. Stephen King's read it and mentioned it or something. Nothing. And then halfway through the day, it jumped into the top 100 of all books on the Amazon Kindle USA store. I'd never seen anything like it. And here we are. And I thought it would end. I kept saying to my husband, well, it'll be one day, somewhere it's gone in a newsletter. Amazon's recommended it in a newsletter. It will end. But it didn't end. It kept going and going, and it's still going. So a week later, poor Stephen King has to put up with the fact that he is number 3 horror writer in the USA, and I'm number 2.
Oh, yay!
Blake, I know, yay! And, the only person he has his own TV show, Blake Crouch. He's got Wayward Pines on FX. Yeah. So that's a bit hard to compete with. So until I get my own TV show, maybe I will have to just be second. Or if I get some more books out, because he's got a few more books than me, so that makes a difference as well. But, so getting back to the whole thing about being persistent and luck, I wrote to every single author I know that's had some success. One of my friends, Doug Richards, is the #1 sci-fi author on Amazon USA at the moment, and he's an indie author. He's an American, writes great techno-thriller books. I wrote to him and said, Doug, look what's happening. And have you ever heard of this? Like, he does a bit of marketing, but he does different style of marketing to me. And he wrote back and said, no, that's amazing. Kudos, kiddo. So, yeah. And then he did a little screenshot of him, #1 science fiction author, and he edited in that I was number 10 science fiction author, and he goes, oh, we're a great team. So, I don't know. It's mad. So anyway, all the authors that are in South Africa that think Amazon is bad, don't believe everything that you hear. Again, like we were discussing, investigate yourself, because there are a lot of rumours about publishing, self-publishing. One is that you will make $1 million. You won't. You will not make $1 million in your first year unless, I don't know, something magical happens or you've got a lot of money to spend. Amazon is a good company to deal with, and if you persist and you write good quality books and books that people want to read, I think you can be successful at this. It doesn't matter what country you are in. And as I said, you can't get disillusioned. it turns on an hour. It literally turned on an hour. And prior to that, with Deadly, it turned on a day. One day I was selling 2 books, 1 book a day if I was lucky, and then the next day I sold 20, and then over the weekend I sold 200, and then it just took off. And by the end of that month, I'd sold a few thousand of Deadly. And so, you know what I'm saying? You don't know what the next day will bring.
Yeah. Okay. I think I have to ask you a final question because we've been chatting for quite a while.
Yes, come on.
I want to know what you are currently reading.
Oh, interesting question. Funnily enough, I usually do read fiction, but I was sent, because I review like you, I review for publishers,
right,
which I've got zero idea why they send me books, because I barely write the reviews because I'm just too busy. And half the time now I just stick them on my bookshelf and then I give them away. But I'm actually reading George Lucas's biography, being a film buff, and
yes,
I'm loving it. I tell you, I'm just looking it up, what it is. I can't remember it. My Own Life or something. Hang on. George Lucas. But it's so interesting because he didn't realise, obviously, biography, I've got no idea what I'm reading because I didn't put it in Goodreads. But he just didn't know that he was creating history, and it's very interesting to read about somebody when they don't realise. And
yes,
he was practically broke when he did Star Wars.
Okay.
So, here it is. It's by, hang on. I'll just bring it up. It's brand new. Like, it just came out in, I think, late December. And I thought it sounded interesting, so I asked them to send it to me, and now I'm just waiting for my very, very, very slow internet to come up.
Oh, it's frustrating when it's slow like this, isn't it? Oh.
Yes, it's called George Lucas, A Life, and it's got him and C-3PO on the cover, and the author's Brian J. Jones. If you love Star Wars or you love film history, it's just a must-read. Love it. But normally I read fiction, but I read everything.
Sean, who is one of the fellow TBB maniacs, is besotted with Star Wars. Absolutely besotted. So this sounds like a good gift for her.
Oh, you'll have to tell her.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell her. Yeah, great gift. I don't know how much it costs, but yeah, it's a really big book too. So I haven't finished it. I've almost finished it. I've just really felt so enthralled. And again, his attitude, I'm learning from him. I felt this way anyway, but his attitude to controlling everything and owning his own properties is paramount to him. He just decided he didn't like what the studios did to him with Star Wars. They nickel and dimed him, didn't think it was going to do very well, and so he couldn't make the film he wanted to make, so he vowed never ever to have to go back to the studios and get his money from them. And so he funded the rest of everything, and the contracts he wrote with them were diabolical in his favour. Yes. That he would own all the rights to the merchandising, and that's what made him a billionaire. So he didn't know it was going to happen the way it did. But that's the thing, you don't know. So that's how I feel as an author. I don't know what's coming. I have to hope big things are coming. So therefore, I bet on me. I bet that I keep control, because I bet that I will be the one that can help me more than if I sell off my rights too early, I guess I'm saying.
Yeah. Would you like to see any of your books in film?
Oh, yeah, of course. I think I'd prefer to have them on FX or, some of these Netflix channels, because they push the boundaries.
Yes.
But I'd of course, I'll review films. That would be very funny to review my own film, sitting next to my fellow. Because I have, it's a very small community in Western Australia or Perth of film reviewers, so we know each other really, really well. There's people from the newspapers, radio. I do radio. It's just a hobby. So we know each other really well, so it would be so bizarre to sit next to them and watch a film from one of my stories. I think I'd die of embarrassment, probably, especially if it's not good. But I'm very commercial when it comes to my books. I just think once they're out there, like if I sold the rights to a film, whatever they do to it, that's their business. And if they mess it up, oh well, that's their problem.
Yeah.
I think I prefer that anyone that gets anything to do with my intellectual property doesn't ruin it. But if they do, oh well, they will have paid me for it, and that's how it goes. And I'll learn a lesson, and
move on.
But,
yeah,
I definitely would love. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you know what? The thing is, it doesn't take me long to write a book, so I figure if anyone messes anything up of mine, I can just do another one. I've got a million stories to tell, and so what? You just got to be like that. You've got to be so cavalier. You just got to think. Otherwise, it messes with your mind. It's a real mind game, writing, and you just have to keep your wits about you.
Okay. Well, I think we need to end this, as much as I don't want to, because it's been such fun. It really has. Thank you so much for your time and for being so open. I really appreciate it.
Oh no, thank you so much for your time.